Ladies and gentlemen, so many stories to talk about today. Let's actually start off with the first one. That's obviously the whole kerfuffle going on with Donald Trump and his attacks on South Africa. I say attacks because that's the way the ANC government views it. They see Donald Trump as attacking the sovereignty of South Africa. And this is actually according to our electricity minister, Ramaphosa, who says that the whole discussions around expropriation without compensation is nothing more than a smokescreen. The whole goal of it is to topple the state. He says that it's basically being pushed forward by ultra-right lunatic fringers who want to undermine the transformation project. I say transformation project because this obviously comes to the idea that basically Donald Trump has said he doesn't want to have to side with a state that puts legislation in place that sidelines equal opportunities, not equal outcomes, which is obviously the usual communist manner. Now, you see, this all becomes very interesting because we are assured, according to Cyril Ramaphosa during his address, he said that there will be no wholesale confiscation of land, like the equivalent of what he says the Nats did, where they basically came off and chucked people off land. And he says South Africa's moved beyond that. Now, his use of the language was rather specific because obviously what he's attempting to do is alleviate people's fears that South Africa will become, Zimbabwe number 2, where they basically have this wholesale confiscation of land. So Ramaphosa is telling everybody, don't worry, it's not going to happen. Now, why this is interesting is that during the State of the Nation responses, Dean McPherson and his deputy, an ANC stooge, basically had a bit of a fallout. And what they were actually falling out over was the idea of expropriation without compensation. Because according to Dean, he wasn't going to authorize it. According to him, it would be unjust, unconstitutional, and he didn't want to have to expropriate things. And according to the ANC minister, Dean must do it. He must expropriate because we need land redistribution. And here we have the problem. One party saying yes, one party saying no. Now, if you look at Dean's deputy, apparently he was a minister before. And so he feels that Dean is undercutting all the work that he did in the previous administration, then talking down on the work that he had done. According to his minister, he's claiming responsibility for all the work that Dean suggests that he's done. Dean says he's cleaned up a lot of corruption, he got into a department that was basically destroyed, and he's made it great again. According to his minister, it wasn't him, but apparently the previous minister did all the work and Dean just, gave the rewards. But I've got to say, does that sound like an ANC minister previously did good work and is now bearing fruit? You let me know what you think in the comment section below. I know exactly what I think. I find it odd because this form of, let's call it split personality of the ANC is just like on full display for everybody to see. I'm telling everybody they're not expropriating land, but they're going to expropriate land. And they're not going to expropriate land, but they are going to expropriate land. They're not really sure what they're going to do. And the reason that they're not really sure what they're going to do is because, the international world's watching. And they're not willing to just, assume the best of the ANC anymore. And where we see this most problematic is obviously now in the whole refugees scenario, which obviously Donald Trump says that he's willing to take Afrikaner refugees. This became interesting because during the president's response to the responses of the State of the Nation, he said that South Africa should not be bullied by any country outside or inside of it. Now, obviously, the allusion to somebody inside the country is probably Afriforum. But in any case, he says that there are these harsh global winds, and that's this idea of nationalism. And he says that South Africa as a society, he says that we need to do transformational society. He says the process of redistribution is not complete. It's an ongoing process, but that parties shouldn't be keen to leave the country and go abroad when their issues can be solved inside their country. And this is obviously an allusion to the fact that Ramaphosa is now suggesting Afrikaners shouldn't leave the country. They should stay in the country and help make the country, great again. Their skills and their needs for them in the country, according to Ramaphosa, are still very much needed or wanted, for want of a better word. And according to him, they just shouldn't all just, go abroad. But you see, ladies and gentlemen, this is the problem. The president says we can sort these problems internally, but A bit like the NHR scenario, where the relevant minister now says that there is no compromising deal and the law is the law and we're going to do what we want anyway. You quite often see this in terms of the compromising position of the ANC. And that is, they're not willing to compromise. They have their position, and you must either bend the knee or don't get involved. Now, in this instance, the whole bending the knee scenario would be that Cyril kind of releases or relinquishes some of the overarching burdens currently being seen by third wave BEE. In other words, the idea that you can enforce BEE through the licensing criteria and thereby free certain ethnic minorities out of the economy through licensing. And this is something that Saltalika talks about quite a lot. But in any case, the whole point of third wave BEE is to basically freeze Afrikaners out the economy and frustrate their every turn, with the idea that it's all being done for the purposes of restoration or redistribution. And some might just say revenge. And you can let me know what you think in the comments, whether you agree with that statement. But you see, the biggest problem that we have in the country as a whole is that the problem is that race-based legislation is given a nice veneer. It is race-based legislation, but it's for transformation. So therefore, it can't be racist and can't be race-based legislation because it's transformation and it's redistribution and it's addressing historical injustices. Still race-based legislation though, isn't it? I mean, when you actually strip it of the veneer, it's still just race-based legislation. And if many individuals are saying they want to go broad because of race-based legislation, and you're saying stay here and help fix it, the answer would be to repeal some of the race-based legislation and to ease up on it. But like the NHR bill, the ANC would just say, well, no, we have to do this because we have to readdress the historical injustices. And this leaves us in a very precarious position. We know what the issues in South Africa are: crime, race-based legislation, lack of economic growth. The president is doing nothing to address those, but you must just shut up and stay put, because by staying put, you can help him fix the issues in the country, which will in turn benefit you. But I'm not sure how it will benefit you, because the president's not willing to compromise in order to ensure that both sides benefit. It reminds me of the very first lesson I ever learned in business. It was actually from my very first business partner. He once said to me, a business relationship is only so good if both sides benefit. If one side benefits and the other doesn't, the relationship is toxic and will fall apart. So I hate to say it, Mr. President. The Afrikaners need to benefit being yet too. You can't freeze them out the economy and say that we really value Afrikaners and we want them to stay, but we want to destroy the quality of life. Both sides need to benefit. And that's something that the ANC often forgets. I must say, as a final comment on this entire debacle, the EFF has requested an urgent debate in Parliament to the US-SA fallout, and I must give complete trepidation to this. I am not in favour of this debate at all. Not because we shouldn't debate it, but because, well, it's the EFF that wants to debate it. So you see, the problem is going to be that they're just going to stand before Parliament and say, oh, fuck US, we don't need the US, we should side with China, Russia, and whatever other third world economies there are. And they'll say, we don't need the US and screw them. Yeah, this isn't going to be helpful. This isn't going to be helpful to anybody, because the very next statement is also going to be, who needs Afrikaners, them as voetsag, colonizers, land thieves, what. We all know the complete garbage that's going to come out during this debate. And I think that's funny, because Ramaphosa himself said that in the actual responses to his SONA, he says that the quality of replies from MPs was, well, shit. And I hate to use that language, so apologies. But the reality now is that the average MP just isn't really that bright. We don't really have the best and brightest in Parliament anymore. Some of you may argue that we never did. But the reality is that the current wave of MPs are just dire. And Ramaphosa is noticing it himself. And that direness is going to be on full display during this so-called debate. So yeah, I'm not in favour. Anyway, it's just my views. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Until next time, bye.